All right, welcome to part 4 of the Sci Fi Case. So in this tutorial, we're gonna try and start the side here. You can see I've kind of modeled ahead to kind of see what I might want. And what I was kind of going for, if we bring back Photoshop, was sort of this corner here piece and then something like this in here to basically combine the two on here. So you can see here, here's where the latch would be. And the idea here again is this is a separate unit than this. And so what I did is I just duplicated these blocks and kind of brought them over here. And then I cut off half of it. The only thing I need to do is I forgot on this guy to create I have sort of the opening for the seam, but I don't have an actual seam line that goes all the way around. So I'm going to do that first. So I'm going to isolate selection. You can click on again the arrow here, or you can hit Control-1 as the hotkey, and that will also do it. And I'm going to hit number 1 to go into the solid form versus the smooth mesh preview. And you can see I have a center line here, which is great, which I want to scale in. But before, I need to add 2 more edge loops, one on each side. And so I'm going to go to my offset edge loop tool. Again, I showed you this last tutorial how to create this from the hotkey, but here it is in my custom shelf. So I'm just going to click on that and drag in here and kind of basically get a little guy here. And it looks like the offset was a little weird. Let me try that one more time. Sometimes based on where you're at, it's a little hard. There we go. I want it to be in a little bit further. And then let me click on him again. So I'm going to double click on this guy and then hold the shift key, double click on this guy, and then just use a scale tool, hitting R and kind of, do I have anything else selected? Let me just double check here. Nope, it's okay. So I'm going to kind of scale him in just a little bit. I want it to be a little bit tighter there. That looks good. And then, yeah, now I'm going to select this line by double clicking on it, and then I'm just going to scale it in. So by grabbing the scale tool here, it'll kind of create like a little dent essentially. So I'll right click, go to object mode and hit number 3. And you can kind of see now we have like this sort of seam line that kind of goes through on there. And that gives a little bit of separation, which is the idea here. The other thing I was thinking about, let me turn off wireframe on shaded for a sec. I was thinking was this guy here is a little rubbery in the front, and I added, if you look here, I added edge loop down, and I'm thinking it might be cool to add on the top too, going across. So I'm going to double click on my insert edge loop tool, make sure I have that selected, and just bring in another one up here. And what this will do is it'll just kind of firm it up on both ends by adding that edge loop there. And I think that'll be it for now. I might want to add a few more, like I could add one back here to kind of change the shape of that roundness. But for right now, I think this is a good kind of stopping point. When I hit number 3, you can kind of see it just makes these guys a little crisper at the front. And again, I might change some of the, shaping of this later on. But let's move on to the other sections. Let me undo isolate select again here, and I'll turn on my wireframe on shaded. I want to try and create this piece here. So what I'm going to do is basically select these pieces and kind of go through the process of first adding a middle division line on both sides, and then splitting off half of it basically is what I need to do. So, and I'm only going to work on one side. You can see I didn't even bother modeling the other side because basically I'm going to mirror this across and mirror it across this way. So, or maybe I'll mirror it across here and then have something else in the end. I don't know. I could end up doing that. Who knows? But I think it'll be symmetrical. I kind of like the idea of symmetry on all 4 sides. So, all right. So I have this selected. I'm going to go ahead and isolate selection, and then I'm going to double click on my insert edge loop tool. Make sure I have multiple edge loops selected and have one edge loop. What this will guarantee is that when I click on here, it'll always end up in the center here. So I'm going to center it here, and what that will let me do is just basically delete that whole side here. I also want to separate the center here. So I'll add an edge loop there, and then let me unisolate and just see if I need to add any more edge loops to start off with. Yeah, I think I need one right here, and here, and here. So we'll have a couple more there to select. And then maybe one across here and one across here. And I can always add a few more, but I'm just kind of eyeballing it here. And it's okay if it doesn't end up exactly the same, but I just want to get some geometry here to kind of get it started. And I think, looking at this, let's see. I think that's pretty close to what I need right now to start. All right, so I'm going to click off with the arrow escape out. And the first thing I'm going to do is just select in face mode these faces and just delete them. In fact, yeah, I can basically delete those on the other side too. So I'll just select those and delete them. And so essentially all I have is this box here, and that's totally fine. So what's going to happen here is you have to start thinking about this analytically. And on this, I do have an n-gon up here with a bevel, and I'm going to do that at the last point. And I haven't corrected yet. I'll do it in another tutorial on fixing the geometry. But remember, n-gons are anything more than 4 sides. So you can see here I've got, if we go into edge mode here, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sides here. So this is definitely an n-gon here. 3 or 4 sides is the preferred method. We can easily fix this, and it's on both sides, both on the top and bottom here. So what I want to do first is kind of pull down, because I'm going to bring up this whole part here eventually. So I'm going to go to vertex mode, just drag across these verts, hit W, and kind of pull them down a little bit here, because I'm going to extrude up basically these sections here, this whole side basically. And I just realized I didn't add a division, but it's kind of on the front side. So I'm going to double click on this and add relative distance this time. So I'm going to click about here. I forgot about that edge loop which needs to come across here. And now we got that corner piece there. So if you look at the first piece we're going to do is this side here. If you can see, it's basically an extrusion that went in. And what I have here is basically some smaller pieces, really thin, and then a bigger piece. And again, that's kind of going towards this idea, like thin, kind of bigger, thin, and then much bigger down here. It doesn't have to match exactly. Again, this is all sort of intuitive modeling. I'm not following sort of a blueprint or anything, but I am going to just kind of see how things go here. So I'm going to grab, let's see, I'll double click on this edge loop and double click on this one. And I want to, let's see, I think I want to scale these out a little bit, make this just a little bit bigger. And then, or no, actually, I'm going to do that. I'm going to leave this size, and then, but I want to do it on the bottom here. I want to scale out these two bigger. So bring that out. So that's the wider piece essentially, and that's a smaller piece. And then I need a thin area here. So I'm going to use the offset edge loop tool, click right in here, and create those 2 edge loops again. Click out with the arrow, and then double click on this one, and hold the shift key, double click on this one, and I can kind of scale them in a little bit to make them a little bit thinner as they come down. Something like that. And you can see here that these are straighter in the inside. If you ever do want to make your edge loops totally straight, like I can double click on this and I can scale it in the Z axis here. So I can double click on this one and then just grab this and kind of scale it. And so actually it's not a bad idea, because I do want this to have this thinner profile here on the top. And I think actually with this edge loop, I'm going to double click on it and hit W. I'm just going to kind of move it forward just a tiny bit. And then, yeah, there is, it's a kind of a long piece, but I think it'll work out okay. Again, it might not match exactly, but now I'm going to go into face mode, select this face. I'm going to hold the shift key and just select the faces that I want to extrude. So I kind of want this bigger piece, and then these little guys, and then a bigger piece down here. And again, I'm not concerned if it matches that one exactly. Like that one, you can notice this whole bottom edge loop goes down a little bit further. Actually, I might want to move that down just a little bit further. So let me go back to edge loop and double click on this one, hit W, and kind of move that down a little bit. I do want that to be a little bit lower, go back to face mode. And what's really nice is Maya remembers what faces you had selected. So I didn't have to reselect those even though I moved that edge loop down, which is pretty cool. All right, so now I just hit Control E, again to extrude, or again in the modeling toolkit, it's over here, the extrude. So in the thickness here, I'm gonna put minus 0.04, I think. And that should be pretty good. And that gives me a nice little extrusion there. And so that kind of matches what's going on there for the most part. And then let's do the extrusion up now, and then we'll do the bevel. So now I can grab this face, hold the Control key or Shift key, and select these faces here. And that one, because I want those to go up. So I'm going to hit Control E again and kind of just pull this up to about there. And you'll see that that has changed the depth here. And so you can see I angled that the interior part a little bit. And so what's really fun about this geometry is you can mess with it however you want. So I'm going to double click on this edge loop here, hit W, and kind of just pull this up a little bit just to give a little bit more room. And then I'm going to click here and then hold the Shift key and double click. So I select this whole edge here. And I'm going to pull it up so I get kind of an angle. I think it'd be kind of cool to have an angle there. In fact, if I don't want this to go all the way down, let me undo just a couple of these. I could just click here and then double click here and kind of move this up. This will help with the sort of geometry. The flow of it is a little better, I think, if I just double click and kind of pull that up. There we go. Now we got a smoother look for that. I kind of like that sort of slant that goes in. And then if you notice back here, I have a slant on the side here. So we're going to slant these guys in just by clicking here and then shift clicking here and kind of angle that in. And now we got a slant there. I can even angle the front. Looks like I did that on that one. So again, I'm just going to click here and then hold the Shift key, click here. And again, I'm just eyeballing. I'm just like having fun trying to shape this thing. So making something interesting. And then finally, to create the bevel effect on the edge here, I'm going to click here and then double click here. So I select this entire line here. And then I'm going to click on the bevel tool. So the bevel tool is right here in my custom shelf. And it's under, I think, the mesh tools. Nope, edit mesh. Here it is, edit mesh bevel. And you can go to the options. It also has a hotkey of Control B. I think I'll use the hotkey this time, Control B. And that opens up the flyout menu here. If for some reason the flyout menu doesn't come up, you can always go in your channel box and then find the bevel in here. So if you click off, like I'll click off for a second, you can see here's the poly bevel 3, and I can click on it and it will bring this back. So what I want is a fraction of, let's see, I think the 0.5 actually isn't too bad. Might go 0.4. Let's try 0.4. Yeah, that looks better. And then I'm going to add some segments here. Maybe 4. And again, it doesn't have to match exactly like this one. You can see this one's a little bit different. If I do want it to be wider, I can increase this fraction here. So if I increase this a little bit more, maybe to 0.8, you know, we got that kind of set up so it's more rounded. Actually, I kind of like that. Actually looks okay. And then the last thing that's happening here is that there's this taper effect that it goes in and out here. And that's pretty much what you want to do is move those by verts. So basically, if I come in here, I want to go into vertex mode and I just want to select these verts here. I'm just drag select across. So I want to make sure I have those selected. And if I hit W, I can kind of move them in. And if I hit number 4, I just make sure nothing else is moving. You can do a little test move to kind of see here. Bring it back, hit number 5. So number 4 is wireframe and number 5 is shaded solid mode. So kind of what I'm going to do is kind of move these in a little bit, like something like that. And I think, yeah, maybe I need another edge loop across here to create that sort of bevel effect like an edge. So I'm going to bring them in just a little bit more. And then I'll grab the insert edge loop tool. Actually, I'll double click, make sure I have relative distance. Yeah. So I'll click about right here and drag us down, something like that, and then click out. And this one, what I'm going to do is go into vertex mode, and again, just kind of drag across these guys right here. And it looks like I might have one down there selected, so I'll hit W and kind of pull these out a little bit so we get like a kind of tapering off effect of the geometry. So that'll give me that basic structure. So just to show you real quick, this isn't finished modeling. If I hit number 3 for Smooth Edge Preview, you can see there's lots of issues, including the icons. But if I was going to mirror this across, I could use my good old mirror tool and hit Mesh and go to Mirror and just click on that. And then if I want to do in the world view, I could mirror in, say, the different axis. So if I mirror the X, you can see as it snaps across, you can see that's how it would look. And so that's the idea. And then I'd probably select this and mirror it across the other side to eventually get this case. But we're not going to do the mirroring yet. We're going to kind of end here for this tutorial, I think. And yeah, this is sort of a good end point, I think. In the next tutorial, we'll kind of try and finish things off, maybe add some of the bevels and some inserts and so forth, and make this piece of geometry look a little cooler. Until next time, see you soon. Cheers.